I recently wrote a blog post about supporting different types of neurodivergence in a traditional ballet class instead of like an adaptive ballet class, right? Because there are a lot of people with low support needs, but they're still definitely neurodivergent. So they absolutely can thrive in a ballet class, but it takes a lot of energy to mask or bridge that gap by themselves. There are some things that we can do that are beneficial to almost everyone in the studio, whether they are neurodivergent, neurotypical, or unspecified. So today I want to talk about what some of those things are. The first one is to have clear, consistent schedules. If you have students who come for multiple classes in a day, if at all possible, have a written schedule of what they're going to do, who's going to teach it, and what studio it's in, unless they never have to change studios. Even then, I would list it. This seems like a ton of work because it is. And if you have admin support to help get those written for you, I highly recommend asking admin for support. Just most people don't remember. Most people don't remember. It doesn't matter how many times you sent the email, kids are not going to open it up. They're just, bless their hearts, they're not. And even if their parent dropping them off opens the email and reads them the schedule for the day, they will not remember it after class one. Just most people don't remember it. And most people feel safer and more secure when they know what to expect. So it seems like a big hassle for a little payoff, but it actually is a big hassle for a moderate to big payoff, kind of depending on the group you're working with. It's not to say you can't have surprises. You can totally mix up your class schedule. You can totally change the order you want to do something in class. You absolutely can spring surprises on people. And a lot of people flourish with surprises. So your balancing of the two is a little bit tricky. If you know in advance you want to do a surprise or you want to mix things up, it can be really helpful to email the parents and say, hey, I'm going to do this. Some kids love surprises, some kids don't. So warn or don't warn your kid depending on what is best for them. But if you want to, if you walk in the door and you're like, you know what, I'm not feeling it today, we're going to go a different direction, go. Listen to your artistic and teaching instincts. And because you have been consistent most of the time, the dancers who thrive with that structure, you've already built the trust with them to go with you on a surprise. It's not the end of the world because you've put in the work ahead of time. If you can come up with some key phrases for cues that you use all the time, that's going to be really helpful to your dancers. Whether it's an image-based cue or something more concrete, kind of depends on your personal, whatever is easiest for you. Some people flourish with imagery, some people flourish with facts. And both groups can be amazing performing artists. It's not just the imagery people that are creative and artistic. It takes all kinds, right? But if you have a dancer that is more concrete, more analytical, and your cue is more image-based, it can be really helpful to help that person connect the dots, right? Help them find the concrete correction and then say, okay, describe to me what you're feeling. That's what I mean when I say. The flip side is if you are a concrete analytical person and you are working with a very imagination-based person, ask them what they would describe it as, right? Do your analyzation and do everything and get the correction that you are aiming for, and then say, how would you describe that? And then if you can use their language as one of your consistent cues, oh my gosh, it makes people feel very special when you value their opinion enough to use it. So you've built that bond with your student, but also you've, again, bridged the gap between analytical and imaginative. Because as a teacher, I don't suggest that you have two cues for the same thing. I have both kinds of cues. I try to have both kinds of cues in my classes so that I can play to everybody's strength at least once. I do my best. But I don't have fallback, go to, these are Miss Chelsea phrases, two different kinds for the same thing, because it's the repetitive, it's the, this is what she means, that makes those stock phrases so valuable. And if they never know which kind they're going to hear, you have that extra step of processing what I said and it just is not as efficient. The next one is we need to normalize fidgeting in ballet class. We need to normalize fidgeting. I'm not talking about hanging on the bars. Why do we have to stand perfectly still? Why do we have to be in an en repose where we are in first or fifth position with our hands behind our back? Like, why? I understand like class culture and decorum, but also most people focus better when they fidget a little bit. That's why we doodle in meetings. Some people that's going to be shifting their weight from one foot to the other. For some people that's going to be playing with their fingers. Now, I will admit, it bugs me to an irrational degree to have people fiddling with their fingers because they're also looking at it. And whether they're listening to me or not, that feels very disconnected and disrespectful to me. And I just own that with my students. I'm like, I know that's not what you intend, but seeing you do this while I'm giving you information really bugs me. Can you switch to putting your hands behind your back and fidgeting with your fingers there? And students honestly so far have been really, really cool about that. They've been like, that is weird for you to do, but yeah, I can meet you halfway on that. Most people focus better when they are allowed to move a little bit. And I know that some of you are going to say, I tell them to do the combination with me while I'm teaching it. And there's tons of value in that. That's not the same thing as fidgeting. It doesn't serve the same need. Can you find a way to incorporate both in your classes? And it will look different from what I do in my classes because we're different people. But absolutely 100%, it is time to normalize fidgeting in ballet class. It can be done in a way that is not disruptive to neighbors and not disrespectful to the teacher. And I think it would benefit us all if we were open to the idea of maybe modifying a dress code. Look, I love a room where you walk in and every dancer is wearing the same leotard, and my traditionalist heart just loves that. But if I picked the leotard, it's going to be a pinched front princess seam spaghetti strap. And if I have a dancer who's a C cup in my class, I don't think she's going to feel very comfortable in that spaghetti strap. And if someone doesn't feel comfortable, they're not able to learn as well. Or if I picked tights, I would pick tights with a seam. Again, traditionalist. Hi, here I am. I like the way they feel in my body. I like the way they look on stage. Also, to be fair, way back in the day, only seamed tights came convertible. So you could cut your own unseamed, but then you had to fray check and some blah, 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 blah. So in my brain, there's still this hang up with, oh, they're better because, even though obviously the technology of fabrics has evolved and you can now get convertible seamless tights, no big deal. If I were picking tights for everybody, that's what I would pick. But it's pretty common for tights to bug people. Like the tightness of them, or the fabric of them, or the seam on the toe, or the waistband. Like tights are a shockingly common reason kids quit ballet. And it's kind of an unnecessary reason. So if you have the ability to loosen your tights dress code or your leotard dress code to this color or this range of colors, right? Like everybody has a black leotard, or everybody in this level has a royal blue leotard, and then you can have pink or flesh toned or bare legs. Let's normalize bare legs, especially in the summer. It's like 90 degrees outside right now. I prefer to dance in bare legs. That's just me. I prefer it. I have no problem if my students also prefer it, even though the studio is air conditioned. Why not? Like if tights are the reason someone doesn't want to come to class, but they would come in bare legs, like why not? There are options to help people be physically more comfortable and less distracted in class that we could consider. And honestly, if part of your studio culture is that uniformity, I'm not sad. I like it. I see the value in it. I see the reasons for it. But if it's not specifically part of your culture, what other directions could you look? That's all it is. Like, how many different directions can we look so that we as teachers and program directors and people who make these kinds of decisions, what do we do because it's important to us, and what do we do because we just didn't consider changing? And we're all going to consider changing in different ways, and that's good. That's good, because we're talking about diversity. If the goal is to welcome neurodiverse students into our rooms, it doesn't make sense for me to say there's only one way to do that. I should also be welcoming a diversity of opinions among teachers. If we are just all open to the idea that there are different ways to do things, and some of them will fit for us and some of them will fit for someone else, I just think ballet as a whole will become more welcoming and more fun.